matchup is you want to DI slight forward as Marth, and then you want to smash DI whatever hit they do. Does Austin agree with that? I agree with that. So you smash DI out whether it's up tilt or
But he's
forward
saying
tilt.
having the extra frame of hit stun makes the SDI like easier or something, or more effective to get out.
That doesn't make any sense.
Well, also you don't have to delay the up tilt. It's like you can still up tilt at the exact same time regardless of port. It's just that they have an extra frame of hit stun in one of the ports. So it's like they don't fall farther down. I mean, you could let them fall farther down with the extra frame of hit stun, but you don't have to.
Yeah, it's cool having Austin in the chat. I'm not going to listen to anything you say. I'm cool having maybe out of state, New Jersey. Harriet's homie.
Yeah, the height is important, but you can up tilt him at the exact same height regardless of port.
It might be harder to delay a frame.
Well, yeah, but you don't even have to delay it, so it's like, it doesn't matter. Like, you can just up tilt the same way you always do. Because you're still actionable on the same frame. Marth is still relatively close to the same position. It's like fractions of a melee meter off, but it's like, that's very insignificant. It's like the difference between a Phantom and a Not, I think.
Melee meters matter.
But fractions of melee meters? Like, 1 melee meter is like the width of Marth's foot.
Really?
Yeah, it's like pretty small. Maybe a little bit longer, but like, yeah.
Melee meters are pretty cool, though. I like that the game has its own, like...
It has to.
Does it really?
How else are you going to do positioning?
Well, okay, I guess more what I'm saying is that it has a name, and like it's referenced in game. I like that a lot.
It's not, what do you mean referenced in game?
Like referenced in, like not in the coding, but like in the game itself. Like, do you get what I'm saying?
No. Like, melee meters is just a name that Magus came up with in a post, like, in 2009.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
No, because there's meters. Like, there's meters traveled, like on the screen.
Oh, yeah, I don't think those are melee meters, though.
No, I think they are.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I like that it's in the game like that.
But it's not, but then 1 meter would be like half the height of Sheik, right?
I don't know. I thought we're assuming you were talking about that sort of meters, like that's referenced in the game. So I was like, oh, that's weird. I didn't expect it to be that small.
I feel like I don't know. I don't think it is the same as what's in like the home run
Well,
contest.
that would seem kind of weird of Magus to make like a separate meter type thing that like when meters is already in the game.
Well, he didn't make it. Like, so the game had, because, you know, a game
Yeah,
is basically just a bunch
okay,
of math
okay,
equations,
okay.
right?
Yeah.
And so you have to have some unit
So
length.
he just, yeah,
It's
okay.
the unit length that they use for all the calculations. They are melee meters. Shut up, Austin.
What are people saying?
You don't do it a frame earlier than you have to. Well, I guess... Oh, I see what you're saying.
Oh, what's he saying?
Oh, so you're saying when
What's he saying?
Peach... Well, okay, so Austin, you're saying that when Marth has... when Marth receives less hit stun, then the follow-up... The SDI, okay, is better because, like, he's higher up when he does end up SDIing. Because you delay...
Oh, okay.
Because Austin's saying that he
makes
delays
sense.
the up tilt by 1 frame in order to make Marth lower.
Or he tries to.
When, during the during the combo.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
But then when Marth has less hit stun, then he can't delay it, so that Marth is slightly higher and the ICI is slightly more effective. No, that makes sense.
Sometimes I wish Melee was just about like knowing stuff about the game.
You should play Guilty Gear. Or any other fighting game, honestly.
Yeah.
I had this conversation with Kevin Pan. Shout out to Kevin Pan. Oh, wait, Ryan. Not Kevin Pan. Ryan Cox. I don't know what I'm saying. Ryan Cox, great friend of mine. He knows they know about fighting games and stuff. Plays a lot of Guilty Gear. But one of the interesting things that he pointed out was like in Melee, when people talk about getting better at Melee, they talk about almost exclusively execution. It's like, oh, like
well,
I was doing like the right thing, but I just need to be faster. I just need to be better. I just need to like not make mistakes.
Well, I mean, they just have to be better is where it gets hard to improve. And that's usually not execution. Or
well,
I mean,
no,
it can
no,
be.
the way they talk about it is like, oh, like is very much in terms of execution,
okay.
or like, or if I could just do this hard tech skill, then I could do so much better.
I mean, which usually
like
isn't very true, honestly.
But it's the way people talk about the game. It's the way they treat the game.
I feel like that's the way bad players talk about the game.
I think it's the way a lot of people talk. In my experience, it's the way a lot of people talk about the game.
I mean, sometimes I'll do that. So. Oh no, dude.
But so my point though is it's like, but in fighting games, the traditional fighting games, execution is way easier. Lots of games have buffers. Like Guilty Gear has a 3-frame input buffer. There's like, and I think sometimes even more, when like canceling moves.
What about Street Fighter?
Yeah, Street Fighter.
Even Street Fighter.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard like there's 1-frame links and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's like 1 frame. Like you need to have the input come out on that 1 frame, but it's like. And I think it's more Street Fighter 4 than 5, but you know, and you know, I'm probably gonna say something wrong because honestly, I don't know that much about Street Fighter. I know more about Guilty Gear. There are like 1-frame links, but a lot of times, I think when they talk about that, they don't consider the input buffer.
Is there an input buffer?
Or the yeah.
Really, in Street Fighter, there's an input buffer?
I'm almost sure there is. And so
okay, we'll go.
But also the things that they just require, and there's no percent. There's no analog control. There's no percent.
Yeah, man.
There's no DI. There's like all this stuff that makes everything very like turns
honestly,
everything
like,
into this gray area in Melee.
I don't want to like disrespect the fighting game community or more like you know, Street Fighter and stuff, but like it's hard to imagine how their game could be more complex or nuanced than Melee.
I agree.
Like what would it be? Like what would you be with your
well, the way they do it is they have large character rosters that are like more or less balanced.
Yeah.
So that like there's more like character knowledge that's important.
Which is cool. I mean,
that's in one way it's more nuanced. But like Melee is more like generally nuanced in that like, you know, DI applies to every character. Percent combos and all that stuff DI applies to every character. And so yeah, so fighting games, like, what point did I want to make? It's like, I was talking about Melee being about execution, or people talking about Melee execution. How did we get started on this? Oh yeah, you were talking about wanting to just like.
Yeah, just knowledge based.
Yeah, be knowledge based. Yep. And so yeah, I think in Melee, to a large extent, matchup experience is not as important as just like execution experience. Well, it's important to an extent, but
I really disagree with that.
But in fighting games, since the execution barrier is so much lower, that it's more about just like knowing the situations, knowing what the characters do, making the right decisions. It's more about decision making than it is about like pressing the right buttons at the right time.
So I've heard almost this argument you making. I mean, a lot of the times I've heard people make exactly the same argument just flipped, where the input barrier is lower for Smash, but like.
Wait, really?
Yeah, yeah, of course, because like
everyone says that Melee is like this crazy hard technical like.
Yeah, but people are
edgy
always
fighting game.
Yeah, but people are always talking about how hard the input, the technical barrier is in Street Fighter.
Hey Warren.
Yeah.
You play real fighting games and Melee.
Yeah.
You play real fighting games and Melee, right? Like, what's easier execution wise? Like, general fighting games or Melee?
I would say Melee because it's a constant execution, but there are some.
What do you mean by that?
Like, doing like basic dash, double cancel, there, like doing like a blade dash, just drill shot,
Yeah.
across the stage. It really way more inputs than you would have to in like whereas as in a fighting game, it's like button sequence, motion, button sequence, motion.
Wait. So you would say melee is harder?
In terms of technicality.
Okay. So, but what about if you're not playing a spacey? What do you think?
Not playing a spacey, I would say.
Or okay. Yeah. Okay. Wait. What about when you start playing the game? Which one's harder? Okay, that's what I was getting at. Yeah. I think the technical barrier at the beginning is harder for fighting games.
Really? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Imagine you try to drill shot across the entire stage. There's so many aspects that you have to know about like fighting game, but like you're not gonna get to that level, right? And whereas I'm like, like fighting games, I know like it's like 4 years of fighting game.
Yeah. Yep.
Everything's already like it's set in motion. Like I said, it's set in combat. And knowing that specific set combo it's like technically sound like you're a player that can
Yeah.
Okay,
But
so
I think the execution challenge of the game persists longer though in melee, right?
I agree with that.
The higher
I agree
level.
with that.
Yeah.
So
Drift.
Yeah.
While accounting for percent and like DI.
yeah, so okay, so let's explain what Warren just said. So Warren Flamin' Roy is a really good melee player who's also good at fighting games,
Yeah.
or traditional fighting games. So he's saying long term he thinks melee is harder technically, because there's just so many buttons you have to input.
And there's a lot of stuff you have to account for.
A lot
and
of
there's,
stuff
like,
you have to account
and
for.
things like drift and like percent.
Yep.
And like controlling like jump height. He said,
Yeah. So, but he's saying short term fighting games. What?
VDX is just like, yeah, melee is easier for Omega noobs who can't DP.
Yeah. So yeah, but melee's easier for new players
Yeah.
because fighting games have a higher.
But like, I feel like, I don't think it takes like maybe not even a month to learn how to DP. I mean, I guess maybe to get consistent at it. Like,
What's
it's
DP?
Gonna Dragon Punch is this Z-like motion that's like hard for a lot of players.